Hello, this is John Speelman with my latest monthly column for Chess Space. It's number 226, and I've called it Ructions in Romania. Ructions isn't quite the right word, but it does alliterate more or less. I had a chat with my wife. We were trying to think of better alliterative words, but we couldn't think of any, so there we are. Ructions it is, which sort of are more angry confrontations really than sort of what I'm talking about, which is time scrambles. Anyway, there we are. So let's have a look at the column. So the column is basically Ructions in Romania, indeed, and it's a couple of games from the recent European Championships in Romania, which was won by Matthias Bluebaum. He's the first person to win the championship for the second time. And there were a lot of people in this tournament, nearly 400. A few withdrew towards the end, but I think, nevertheless, if you take, say, 380, which is 190 a round or so, multiplied by 11, you're getting to, which was the number of rounds, you're getting to well over 2,000 games, maybe 2,100 or something. I think my database doesn't necessarily have the bottom boards from the final rounds. Anyway, there we are. So I was watching the games. I wasn't watching that intently, but of course you see if anything exciting is happening and then you snap to attention at least a little bit. And one thing I do is I have the engine on the background. The engine, it isn't that good an engine if it's being shared with thousands of other people, just a little bit. But it gives you a tiny bit of some analysis, and which I'm not sure if it's the engine in your machine or the one on the website. But anyway, when the assessment changes enormously, then you realise something has happened, and you have a look and see what's going on. And I've chosen two very interesting games which I watched this way, which are one from round 5 and one from round, I think it says 5.2. This is the game Muradli against Navarra, and then later on there's a game somewhere down here. Have I lost the start of it? Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Here it is. Yeah. And this is... Have I lost the start of the game? Did I ever put the header in? This is this one. And here we are. Here we are. That's Muradli against Navarra. And then the second game was the game, the Speelman game, which is somewhere here, which I'm still failing to find the start of. Here we are. Petkov against Speelman, which was from round 9. Okay, I'm going to look at these two games on Chess Space then. I'm sorry about all that faffing. Jolly good faff I've just had. And here we go. So there are just two of them, but they're very interesting. Okay, these are games. The opening variations aren't ones that I play myself for either side. So basically I'm just looking at them, getting an idea what's normally played and saying, oh, well done the boys and the computers. And then I'm getting to the positions. So this one, the first one from round 5 is the game, Muradli against David Navarra. And it's a Grunfeld. Goes h3, which is not a particularly normal move, I think. Okay, and then you go d5 here. So obviously in these positions it is possible to take an a1, but it's a very bad idea at this moment, because takes queen takes knight before castles. Black's knight isn't a stupid square, and in fact it's terrible for black apparently. I mean, I couldn't tell immediately whether it was merely bad or terrible, but the engine tells me it's so. So everybody goes knight e5, castles, take. Now apparently you can take an a1 if you want to now, according to the great and glorious engines and praxis. And it's white has enough for the exchange, but not more perhaps. Navarra does this, and you get to this position, which I think still has been played quite a lot, probably. Let's have a look, do a little reference, see what it says. Oh yeah, okay, browse. Yeah, Chessbase did crash recently, an hour or so ago on me. It does occasionally, of course, and as a result I lost my what's reference database, which is here. Chess, I use TwickBase, the week in chess, myself, and oh God, come here. Oh, it's this one. Okay. And Queen E1's been played 3 times, apparently. Okay. What did he actually do? He went so. Queen E1 played here. It's the obvious move, isn't it? When you think about it, it's the move you're going to play. You don't want to go into the C file, do you? And if you take an E7, the rook gets trapped. I think is not very great. D6 is the move they play, and this is not especially good for white. Apparently, that's obviously everything is interesting. Okay, I'm not that interested, as I said, in what up to the point where they did their stuff. He's keeping his good pawn, very important, and bishop d4. Could have gone queen c5 actually, and I think the engine quite likes that as an idea to stop the bishop getting to d4, which is quite a good square. Anyway, he swapped these. This happened. To there defending this. And this is basically a4 was played, and he played king h2. He could just have played h5, bishop d7, rook b8 here. Before white gets organised. Queen a7, check here, take. And now if rook takes rook b2 is the end of the game, essentially, I think. Most unfortunate. But you play check here, rook takes pawn. And this is perpetual check. You can play bishop g8 if you want to, but it doesn't help. You can do this if you want to, but because g6 is protected, this doesn't help. Obviously, often you can go bishop f7, queen g8 and queen g6 mate, but you can't in this position. And you also don't have bishop to d5, check takes bishop, say, which might be interesting sometimes. That would have been okay. He went a4, king h2. So now it's more dangerous because queen e3 won't be with check. And here, Navarra played a bad move. He should have gone rook f8 apparently, but he went g5. So this is the sort of move you make when you're a bit nervous, but you want to force things and you think it'll be okay. And you're hoping it will be. I think they were already getting into a scramble roundabout now, or certainly quite short of time. And the question is here, what is white's best move? And, I mean, the engine just went ping and told me, but I didn't see this immediately, and I certainly didn't see all the ramifications of the move. So there is a best move here. I don't know what moves one could consider. probably rook f5 was actually played, and it was all right, but it wasn't a great move. But there is a move which is really strong, and it's not. I mean, rook f7 doesn't work yet, I don't think at all. So, yeah, I think if you go rook f7, then bishop b4 is a strong move. Very strong and annoying move. Bishop f3, takes, queen to a dark square, going towards the middle of the board, and white doesn't have enough for the exchange here. Once the queen gets towards e5, then there's not going to be any way that white is attacking. And if white isn't attacking, then white's in trouble. So this would have been very disastrous. But there is a good move, and the right move is in fact queen g6, queen c6, sorry. And this, now the point is, rook f8, other moves aren't better, and then you play queen h6. So now if pawn takes rook, then bishop f5 and checkmate follows, which is sort of bad luck for black, but there we are. So the move you can try is this. And even after being told there was a win, I didn't immediately see it, or in fact I didn't really see it. I asked eventually. I got sick of it and I just said, oh, great one, what is the win? Because I was looking at something like rook f5, f6, I don't know, something, maybe rook f3 and bishop e6 check. But black is very, very solid if he can just get a bishop to g6 and he's all right. And so one question you can ask, I've got a clue I gave people in the column, which is, okay, white actually does do check in here. And the question you have to ask is, what colour squares are you attacking on? If you think about that, it might be very, you might suddenly twig what you have to do. The move you play is the beautiful move d6, which not only attacks the dark squares, but gets this pawn really moving. And now, if rook g8, pawn takes pawn, rook takes queen, check here, takes here, checkmate. Bad luck for black, that he can't defend against checkmate. So he tries pawn takes pawn, but yeah, and then you have this square and bishop f3. You can play queen takes rook, but obviously it's hopeless. I mean, proving it, I suppose one could do, but really, do we really need to? I mean, it's clear that the a pawn won't be sufficient to save the game. In fact, going back, what happened was that after g5, where are we? Are we here? Yeah. He played rook f5, takes, check. And here Navarra played a mistake. If king h8 would have led to a draw, you'd go king h8, yeah, king h8. And now actually rook takes rook is sufficient, but it's more fun to play queen g2 check here. And draws. But he played king h8, bishop g6, which sort of looks natural. But now the e-pawn's a big problem. I think this was not necessarily a great move. Here he tried queen a5. He's basically losing this. If he loses the a pawn, he'll lose. And if he loses rook a6, what do we do about rook a6? Rook b8 we can take. And if rook a6, what do we do? Let's just ask rook a6. Now, do I just play queen takes e7 here, a3, and then something unfortunate? Probably I do, don't I? Queen takes e7, a3, bishop e8, queen a2. Now, can I now go d6 and d7 or something? Can I do something clever? Can't see what I can do which is clever at the moment. Oh, I'm going to be able to play bishop f7 at the end, aren't I? Okay, so I go d6 presumably, a2, and takes, a2, if we take this, new variation, take, a2, bishop f7 check, it says it's clam. How does this work? I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't go bishop f7, I'd go queen d4 or something, wouldn't you? Queen d4. Queen f1. And now, probably about now, we do go bishop f7 and mate him somehow. I'm imagining. No, rook a5. Sorry, that's just simple, isn't it? Okay. We are a hog rook up. It should be winning in the end. I mean, rook a6, queen takes. If a2, d7, pawn equals queen, threatening mate in one move. Bishop takes f7 with check. Queen takes f7. How do we do this? I haven't seen how we do this yet. d8 equals queen with check. King g7. What do we do? Oh, sorry. Sorry, oh dear, not seeing a pin. I apologise. Okay, so he went queen a5, and now there is a clean kill. Let's see if you can see it. The clean kill is just to go queen takes queen, rook takes and d6. Nice clean way to win. I just took this. And he won in a couple more moves. I was slightly surprised. Of course you go h4 here to get the king out of the way. I was slightly surprised he didn't go queen h6 here and just bishop takes bishop. In fact, he went queen to there, and that was sufficient, of course. So really quite an interesting game. It's the first one. And then the second one is another big scramble, really. This is one of these Gioca pianos, which God knows, I haven't played it for either side for 20 years or something, I don't know. So off they go, playing their moves, and I don't particularly understand any of this. I mean, I think if you go a5, black goes b5, gets sufficient control. Black is slightly passive for a little while. He went here, just offering a draw, really, perhaps. So white gets some white squares, just position. So if the rook went on e8, queen takes knight and knight e7 check would cause a major incident. And he went d4, which I think is not a great move, really. h4 is probably a better, king h7. And now, do you go h5 or not? I assume you want to go h5, don't you? h5, yeah. Because now if pawn takes pawn, then we'll go knight h4, yeah. So pawn takes pawn is just a mistake. But you'd go rook ac8 or something, just play some chess. But here white has some sort of advantage. But he went d4. This is to the taste of black's bishop, which starts to get something to aim at. My engine's top move was h4, and I think... Right, let's just put this note in. Sorry, I'm going to put the light on. So I'm going to say my engine was h4, and I think I'd play... I'd have gravitated to this myself. Sorry, is that a G? Sorry about this. I'd... Oh, sorry, my cell. Okay, what a lot of exciting typing. So, I mean, what I would say is that d4 makes the bishop on g7 happy, so you shouldn't play moves that make the enemy pieces happy. Maybe you thought you had rook c1 or something, but then knight e7, then if knight c7, rook c8. So he goes here, c6. And it's a bad equal, I suppose. d5 makes some sense, but it's not. Don't know if he could have played queen b3 maybe or something. e5 says the engine, which wouldn't have occurred to me at all. This... Now, annoyingly, if knight d4, rook e4, because otherwise knight d4 would give a plus equals, so he went here. And we're off to the races, really. White's got some sort of attack now. Black took some of the money. So rook c7, threatening rook c1. And I'm sorry, this is where I started. And indeed, White has to play rook g6 check, really. Rook c1 is quite a big threat. So you do that. If pawn takes, queen checks, and queen takes rook is at least equal. So black goes here. You take again. And again, if takes, queen d6 is okay, so you play the glorious move king to there. Here, White could have played queen d2, bishop c1, queen d6, takes, 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 check here, here. And black is really very okay in this position. I mean, White can swap the queens if he wants, but, well, the a pawn is huge here. If you can't do anything very terrible to White, then it's going to be really dangerous. And it says queen d4 check is the thing to do. Or it says queen b2 as well. Okay, he played knight g5. And black, I think I'll turn the board around because you are playing as black, really. Black has to put the queen somewhere, and f5 is a completely obvious square. So here... I'm going to turn the board around again, actually. White only has one good move. Quite difficult to see by this stage, I would say. I'm wondering if knight e6 is at all interesting, but sorry. So queen d2, queen f5. So he played queen d2, sorry. But he should, it's White to play in this position. And White has one good move. See if you can find it. It's not easy, I think. So he played here, and I'll show you what happened first. Check here, and then the deadly rook c2, which somehow in the melee it's quite easy to miss, I think. Knight to there, check, pawn takes knight, resigns. Obviously you're losing the house, the garden, and every other bit of the property. So the only move actually is to play rook b6, and this does two things. It frees the h, well, it gets the rook off frees the h pawn, and also it covers b2. So now if black plays rook c1, he actually loses. Check here, takes here. Queen to there. King g7, you just play rook b8. So if king g7, you just play rook b8. Sorry, let me put this away. Yes, I have king here. Just rook b8. That's the end of that. And if queen e5, You have 2 wins. Rook b8 check and pawn equals queen is what you should do. Pawn equals queen and rook b8 and rook takes queen and knight takes pawn check will certainly win. And okay, black, you know, black gets a little bit of play trying to get over to the queen side, but the king side pawn should win. But better to go check here, pawn equals queen, check here, check here. Now if bishop takes rook, simply queen takes, or if queen checks, nothing happens. Or if queen checks here, takes, takes, check, and you're already completely out of checks. I don't know if you know that a knight is very, very good at stopping a queen giving check. And that's the end of the game. So rook b6 would have been the right thing to do. So, yeah. So what you actually do, the only black's only move after rook b6 is queen takes knight, check here, check here, check. Now king takes pawn actually loses, I think, to... Does it lose to... Queen d6 check. No, queen d6 check is the move, isn't it? Sorry. Promote variation. I've done this wrong. So he has to go f5, and now you just take the bishop. Now black has nothing better than to take the rook. You have to, if king takes pawn, there's queen f4 check. Is the point, and you have perpetual check because you can't get out of the checks without leaving the rook on pre-or check. And if you go rook f7, h7 check, you're losing. You don't have a stalemate, by the way. If king h8, queen takes rook, queen e5, f4, there's no stalemate. So that's bad luck, because otherwise you could draw that way. So, very interesting battle. What actually, the actual game continued. Queen d2 question mark. Rook checks here, bishop checks here, rook to there, resigns. 2 very good battles. I hope you've enjoyed them. I certainly did. And I will see you again in a month. I don't know what day of the month today. I'm actually doing this on Monday the 7th. It was supposed to be on Sunday the 6th. So 6, 13, 20, 27th of April. So presumably the 4th of May, since there are 30 days in April, I believe. Okay, see you then. Just going to check I am recording, which I am, jolly good. Otherwise I'll be screaming.